The hallway lights flickered softly as Daniel Lockhart pushed his mop bucket forward, the wheels squeaking in a rhythm he had long stopped noticing. Morning shifts were always quiet, too quiet sometimes, but he didn't complain. Quiet meant the world wasn't falling apart. Quiet meant his daughter could sleep a little longer. Quiet meant one more day where he could make ends meet. He paused to adjust the strap of his worn backpack, the one decorated with a faded unicorn keychain his daughter, Lily, had insisted on adding. It made the bag look ridiculous for a grown man, but she'd been so proud when she clipped it on that he never had the heart to take it off. Besides, when life was as heavy as his had become, small pieces of innocence felt like gold. Every morning at precisely 5:40, he finished mopping the east entrance before the first shift of trainees flooded in. But the last few weeks had brought something different, someone different. And today, he sensed her before he saw her, the way one feels a change in the weather before a storm breaks. She came into view around the corner, a young woman in fatigues, posture straight but steps uneven. Her uniform looked slept in, her hair hastily tied back, and dark circles under her eyes told a story she never spoke. She carried a baby, maybe 6 months old, strapped securely to her chest in a faded carrier. Every time Daniel saw them, something inside him tightened. They reminded him of what it meant to be alone. The soldier slowed when she spotted him. She always did. Not to avoid him, but because she seemed to draw something from his presence, steady ground, maybe, or simply the comfort of a man who never asked questions. Morning, she murmured, voice rough with exhaustion. Morning, Daniel replied, offering a small smile. Rough night again? Her chuckle was soft, pained. Aren't they all? The baby stirred, making a soft coo, and Daniel felt a familiar warmth bloom in his chest. Babies had that effect on him. They reminded him of the nights he'd held Lily while she struggled to breathe, the fear of not knowing how to make things better. The soldier rocked her child gently, brushing a thumb across its tiny hand. You should rest more, Daniel said quietly. Rest. She exhaled like the word itself was foreign. I'll add that to my to-do list. He didn't reply. They both knew rest was a luxury people like them couldn't afford. Every morning, their conversations lasted no more than a minute. Yet somehow, they had become a lifeline for both, two tired souls crossing paths in the only moment of stillness the bass allowed. She never gave her name, and he never pressed. Military people carried secrets, he understood that better than most. Today, however, she seemed worse. Paler. Weaker. Like the weight she carried wasn't just the child in her arms but something heavier, crushing her slowly. You okay? He asked, more gently this time. She opened her mouth to speak but swayed instead. Daniel dropped the mop and reached out instinctively. She steadied herself before he touched her, lifting a hand as if to say she was fine, but the gesture was trembling. It's nothing, she whispered. It's not nothing, he countered softly. You're shaking. The soldier's gaze flickered to her baby, then to the ground, as though admitting weakness would somehow make everything collapse. Daniel recognized the look. He'd warned himself too many times, after his wife died, after he lost his job, after he realized the world didn't pause just because he was breaking. You need help, Daniel said. What I need, she murmured, is to stop slowing everyone down. He frowned. You're carrying a child on your chest and half the world on your back. That's not slowing down, it's surviving. Her lips parted slightly, surprise flashing across her tired features. No one had spoken to her like that. Not in a long time. Maybe ever. Before she could respond, the baby let out a soft cry. The sound was thin and weak, tugging at Daniel's heart. The soldier bounced gently, murmuring soothing words that barely reached the air. You want me to hold him for a second? Daniel offered without thinking. She stiffened. Not from fear, more from the instinctive protectiveness mothers carried like a second skin. The kind that said, if the world tries to take my child, I will burn it down. I won't drop him, Daniel added, softening his voice. I've been a dad for 7 years. I'm practically an expert at not dropping things while exhausted. A tiny smile tugged at her lips. You have a daughter? Lily. She thinks I'm the strongest man alive because I can open pickle jars. The soldier let out a real laugh, small but real, and Daniel felt a strange flutter of pride, as though he'd just saved her from drowning. Finally, she nodded and gently transferred the baby into his arms. Daniel held the infant with practiced ease, supporting the head, adjusting the carrier strap, swaying lightly on his feet. The baby settled almost immediately. You're really good at that, she whispered. Comes with having a tiny human who thinks sleep is optional. For a moment, the hallway felt warm. Peaceful. Like two broken pieces had fitted together in a way that made sense, then everything shattered, the soldier's fingers slipped against the wall. Her body swayed again, harder this time, and before Daniel could react, her knees buckled. He lunged forward, catching her shoulder with one arm, the baby still cradled safely in the other. Hey! Hey, he called urgently. Stay with me. Look at me. But her eyes rolled back. Her body went limp, she collapsed into his chest, unconscious. Daniel's heart shot into his throat. He lowering her carefully to the floor, cradling her head, keeping the baby close and safe. Her breathing was shallow, her skin cold and damp. Panic clawed at him, raw, instinctive, overpowering. Not because he feared for himself, but because the soldier looked like a woman who had been pushing herself far beyond her limits for far too long. Help! Daniel shouted down the hallway. Someone call medical. Footsteps echoed from a distance, but he didn't wait. He lifted her gently, carefully maneuvering her into his arms while still holding the baby securely against his chest. She was lighter than he expected. Too light. He started toward the infirmary, heart pounding, breath ragged. The baby began to cry again, louder this time, but Daniel didn't flinch. He murmured soothingly, trying to calm both the child and himself. You're okay, he whispered, though he wasn't sure if he was saying it to her, the baby, or himself. You're okay. I've got you. When he reached the infirmary doors, a nurse rushed forward. What happened? She demanded. She collapsed, Daniel said. She's been pushing herself for weeks. Hardly sleeping. Hardly eating. Set her down here, carefully, the nurse instructed. He did. The baby clung to his shirt with tiny fingers, refusing to let go even when the nurse reached to take him. He's attached, Daniel murmured. Let me hold him a bit longer. The nurse hesitated, then nodded. They began working on the soldier. Oxygen mask, vitals check, questions Daniel couldn't answer. He watched helplessly as they tried to stabilize her. When her breathing steadied but she remained unconscious, the nurse finally approached him. We'll take care of her, she reassured. You can rest now. Daniel nodded, but his feet didn't move. The baby had stopped crying, face buried against his chest. Do you know her name? The nurse asked. No, Daniel replied quietly. She never said. Well, someone will come for her. Soldiers don't stay lost for long. But the nurse was wrong. Someone didn't just come for her, someone stormed in and the infirmary doors slammed open with such force they rattled. 4 officers straightened immediately. 2 nurses gasped. Daniel turned and his breath caught. A man in full dress uniform strode inside, metals reflecting the harsh lights. His presence filled the room like a thunderstorm. Broad shoulders, steel gray hair, jaw carved from stone. Power radiated from him, but so did something darker, fearless authority, the kind only earned through decades of war. Admiral Jonathan Hale. Everyone knew the name. Everyone knew the face. He wasn't just high-ranking, he was legendary. Where is she? The admiral roared. The nurse stepped forward cautiously. Sir, she's right here. We're stabilizing her, but the admiral wasn't listening. He moved like a force of nature, stopping only when he saw her unconscious form on the bed, his face cracked. Fear. Real, raw fear, then something else, something only a father would know. He whispered her name. Daniel froze, his heart pounded as the truth crashed down like a hammer. She wasn't just a soldier, she wasn't just a struggling mother, she was the admiral's daughter, and Daniel Lockhart, the janitor who had helped her every morning, was now standing in the center of a storm he never saw coming.